Thanks, Natalie, and also thanks for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule at the moment to join us here today. A few more announcements. First of all, during our next speaker, there'll be a bucket going round. There he is. Lovely Brendan will be handing around a bucket. Please give donations if you can. Obviously, the more money we raise today, the more campaigning the People's Assembly can do in this crucial period coming up. One event that we are supporting is in association with Enfield Alliance Against the Cuts. That's on the 8th of April at 7 p.m. at Trinity at Bowes Church, and there's leaflets at the front if you'd like more information on that. The other key thing that we focus on, and I'm sure our next speaker will focus on more, is the People's Assembly has called a national demonstration and festival on the 20th of June after the election to demand that whoever's elected ends the cuts and invests instead. So please all do put that date in your diary now, 20th of June, and join us there. And finally, before I introduce Sam, I'd also just like to say a few words to thank all the volunteers who helped run today and helped promote the event. Two people in particular I think deserve special mention. One is Lucy Morris, who helped coordinate all the tube leafleting for the event, and the second is Tim Salford, who's over there, who did all the nice graphics around the People's Manifesto and the projector that many of you have commented on today. So can we have a round of applause for the volunteers and also for the venue? Our next speaker is someone who doesn't need an introduction to many of you. He's the National Secretary of the People's Assembly Against Austerity, Sam Fairbairn.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks everybody for coming. I've really enjoyed the whole day today, and I don't want to repeat a lot of what's been said. But I think the starting point for us, especially in this session, is we've got to recognise that austerity is a choice. It's an ideological choice that's being made by this government, and their rich mates in the city, and we're constantly told by the mainstream that there's no alternative. By the politicians, by the mainstream media, by all of these different things, we're told that there's no alternative to austerity. Austerity is inevitable. It's something that has to happen right now. But I think we need to be very clear. I think it's becoming clearer and clearer, actually, that all that austerity is really about is it's about taking money from the rich, from the poor, literally taking money from the poorest in society and handing it to the richest. We've just gone through the longest fall in living standards since records began for the majority. That's since the 1800s. The longest fall in living standards since records began. Yet the richest 1,000 people in Britain today have doubled their wealth since the recession started. Now that, I think, is becoming clearer and clearer to people, and something that obviously is fundamentally wrong, and it exposes really what austerity is really about. And anybody with half a brain, I think, would realise that austerity is actually making the situation worse. Even on its own terms, it's failed. In terms of last year, the deficit actually grew. The deficit actually grew to close to 100 billion, and government borrowing was up. And if we let George Osborne, we've not seen the worst of it according to George Osborne, if he gets away, and if the Tories get away with their plans, there's still over 60% of cuts still to come. Now this is something that if we let them get away with this, it's obviously is going to destroy the lives of millions and millions of people, but also it's actually going to be, it will actually just suck the economy straight back into recession, because by making people's living standards continuously fall, it just sucks any real demand out of the economy, and we risk going straight back into a recession. We're now only just a few weeks up until a general election, and I think that nobody can guarantee the result of that election, but one thing, there is only one thing that we can guarantee, and that is whatever the result of that election, whether it's a Tory-led government or a Labour-led government or some form of coalition, we still face years of austerity to come. The Labour Party leadership has remained committed to austerity, and I think it's obvious that anybody sensible would prefer to see a Labour-led government, but we are still going to face years to come unless we do something about it. And so I think it's very important for us and for our movement and for us today to look ahead, to look past the election. The election, unfortunately, is not going to deliver the kind of change that we want it to, or that we need it to, in this country. And that means it's down to us. It means that we need to organise more meetings like this across the country. Today, by the way, is just one of a series of events that are taking place up and down the country where thousands and thousands of people are coming to meetings like this and events like this. We need to do more of that. We need to start to create a movement that's impossible to ignore. If you look at Greece, I mean, the reason why Syriza was elected in Greece, it was on the back of a mass movement. They've had over 40 or 40-something general strikes. There was mass movements on the streets, mass demonstrations, huge resistance going on there, and Syriza was elected on the back of that. Now, we aren't in that situation here today, but we need to create that situation. We have to create a situation where we've got a mass movement on the streets, and that's what the People's Assembly is attempting to do. And whatever your project, whether that's you're a member of the Green Party, whether that's you're trying to pull Labour to the left, whether that's you want to set up a totally alternative to Labour, whether it's whatever it may be, or whether you're not interested in Parliament whatsoever, the point is, the starting point has got to be that we should all unite around what we agree on. That's what the People's Assembly is about, and we need to see a mass movement against austerity to make that happen. And that's what the People's Assembly is about. And that's also why the People's Assembly is calling a national demonstration, as Matt said, just after the election, just 6 weeks after the election. We're going to be calling a major national demonstration. We're going to assemble that demonstration outside the Bank of England, at the heart of where this problem came from, and we're going to be marching to one of the poorest boroughs in the country. We're going to be marching to Tower Hamlets, which has been massively attacked by the government, the mayor of Tower Hamlets has faced huge attacks there, so we're going to be marching there, and we're going to hold a free festival, a music festival there. I think that demonstration is absolutely key. It means that we need to put a marker down after the election that the anti-austerity movement's not going away. In fact, we're growing, and we will continue to be a thorn in the side to any government that remains committed to austerity. But that means between now and then, it's up to us to make sure that that demonstration has the biggest impact possible. So everybody here needs to get involved with the People's Assembly. We can't just go home after today. We need to get involved, and between now and then we need to be out on the streets leafleting the tube stations, leafleting the big workplaces. We need to get support for the demonstration through our trade union branches. We need to make sure that our workmates and our family and our friends, everybody that disagrees with what's going on right now, needs to be on that demonstration. But that means that you need to make that happen, because the media is not going to publicise that demonstration for us. The politicians, Jeremy excluded, and a few other notable exceptions, aren't going to be publicising that demonstration. They don't want that demonstration to happen. So that means it's down to us to make that as big as possible. And the only way that we're going to break the austerity consensus is if we make that happen. So please get involved with the People's Assembly and help us make that demonstration as big as possible. Thank you.